ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Rams, Packers, two really disappointing teams, two of the most disappointing teams, rather, in the 2022 campaign doing battle here. When the schedule makers put this thing together, they thought they were putting a gem on the schedule late in December. Not quite. This was, I didn't have a problem watching the game, but this is one of the ones that are tough to try to, get energy to come up and do a stream afterwards. I'm never turning down free football. What I always try to convey to people is in a short month and a half from now, this won't be available to us. You'll be watching the XFL or the USFL to fill the gap, to pass the time. If you need a football fix, you'll have to go somewhere else. I'm good. So while it's here to be got, I'm going to get it. But boy, this was not appetizing. So Packers take care of business 24-12. They're not necessarily playing out the string. They still have, fleeting playoff hopes. They've got to win out. And then they've got to have a lot of help to accompany winning out. But all they can do is take care of their end of the bargain. They did that tonight, beating the Rams. The Rams, I can't think of a worse Super Bowl defending season than the ones the Rams are turning in right now. I'd have to say it's got to be one of those Broncos teams. The one after Peyton Manning retired or the one after John Elway retired. It's one of the two. Generally speaking, when you win the Super Bowl, you're trying to run it back. And you usually have most of your pieces, not all, because when you win the Super Bowl, people start plucking guys off of your roster. Can't pay everybody. You're going to lose a few guys. But normally the quarterback is there, which the Rams had their quarterback, but he was dealing with a bit of an injury. Remember, he had that mystery shoulder thing going on. We weren't even sure if he was going to be ready for the start of the season. And it wasn't a great campaign for him before he got injured. Then he got the concussion. The rest is history. But they had a ton of injuries up front. There's so many things that we can point to with this Rams team not getting Von Miller back, the disappointment of what they thought they were going to get out of Allen Robinson and what he turned out to be. Van Jefferson getting injured and not really having a full complement of receivers for much of the early portion of the season. The offensive line and the deterioration of it with all the injuries. And they've got now 14 different combinations have the Rams this season, which is unheard of. And then obviously Matthew Stafford getting injured, Aaron Donald getting injured. The list goes on and on and on. They've been a mess this season, and the record reflects that. They're now 4-10 on the season after this 24-12 loss. So the Packers are now 6-8. The best they can do is 9-8 on the season. And who knows, with the way the NFC is shaping up, that may be good enough to get in. But again, it's going to be tough because the Packers have lost to so many teams in the NFC. I don't know if they hold many tiebreakers as of right now. So again, they're going to need a ton of help to get in. That said, you can see Aaron Rodgers starting to build a bit of a rapport with these young receivers. You had to know that there was going to be growing pains. And I was sitting talking to my wife as we were watching the game, and I said, it's got to suck for these young receivers that we've seen across the league play with a legend. Because the next guy isn't even going to come close to what that guy was producing, and the ease in which that guy made it for you as a pass catcher, the ease that quarterback was able to provide you with as a receiver, where you just needed to do your job and he was going to get you the football. A guy that I think of right off the top of my dome is Deontay Johnson. He's struggling this year. He's frustrated this year. Why? Because he went from playing with Ben Roethlisberger to playing with Mitchell Trubisky. And I actually don't think Kenny Pickett is that bad, but it's still tough. Still a hell of a transition. That's got to be tough. These young guys are going to get spoiled with Aaron Rodgers. Once they finally get on the same page, and it seems like they're getting to that point, they're going to be spoiled by Rodgers. And then when he decides to hang it up, if there's no replacement there that just picks right up, like Rodgers picked right up where Favre left off. And so there was no drop off for some of those guys. If that's not the case, boy, does that suck. But Romeo Dobbs came back. He looked good tonight. The Christian Watson connection is really growing and getting stronger and stronger. It's always nice to have Randall Cobb when he's healthy. I told them, I said, the Samuel Watkins thing is going to be a really disappointing experience for you because every team outside of Kansas City that got a taste of the Samuel Watkins experience left disappointed, right? They found it out the hard way. They released him. The run game has been so good for the Packers this season. At times, I often question them as to why they don't run it more. The success that they've had at times with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon, for them to not stick with it. There are games where Aaron Jones will be averaging 5-6 yards a carry, but he only gets, 10 carries, 11 carries, 12 carries. And A.J. Dillon is averaging 5 a pop, and he only had 4 carries or 5 carries. And you're like, where's the psychological sense in that? Meanwhile, Aaron Rodgers is struggling. The offensive line has him running for his life, but you're going to stop running and start passing the football. They were able to strike a nice balance tonight between run and pass and handle the Rams pretty easily tonight. Again, there's not a lot. I can't say the Rams are still fighting, but there's not a lot of resistance in terms of the talent that they're putting on the field, especially offensively. It's just without Cooper Kupp, they don't have an offense really to speak of. And Baker Mayfield, the only thing that I'm looking at with the Rams the rest of the season is, can Baker Mayfield do enough? And I said this last week when he had that miracle comeback against the Raiders. Can he do enough? Because his career was, as a starter, was a flicker. It was a flicker. Could he turn it into a flame and reignite what was a fledgling starting career in this league as a quarterback and give himself one more shot? Maybe that's all he needs is a clean slate with an entire offseason, with a group that believes in him and will give him an opportunity to shine. Maybe that's what he needs. These 4 games, including last week, or rather 5 games, last week and then this week and then the 3 that remain afterwards, are going to go a long way in determining, does he get another shot. Last week's, introductory into the Rams organization was a hit. It was a smash. It was a great first impression. This week, not so much. Kind of anxious to see what he does the final 3 weeks of the season because, believe it or not, there are going to be teams that are going to need a starting quarterback that aren't going to be able to get one in the draft, i.e. Washington, that find themselves in this, predicament every year. Not bad enough to draft a quarterback, not good enough to say, hey, we don't need a quarterback, got to do something. So the compromise is go get a veteran. Don't know if they want to go down that road again. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. Don't know what the future holds for the Washington Commanders quarterback situation, but I'd imagine that of the veterans that may be available this offseason, Baker Mayfield is on the short list. Again, that's not something I'm looking forward to, but that is a conversation that we will have to have at some point. That said, this wasn't a great showcase for him tonight. He wasn't terrible, but he wasn't great either. But again, there's not a lot to work with. That's why you have to take it with a grain of salt. But this wasn't a good night for Baker Mayfield. Especially not after what he did last week. There are definitely circumstances. It's cold. The offensive line had another problem tonight, and so it wasn't the best of situations that he was being placed into. But that said, that's what happens when you join a 3-9 team in progress. I mean, this is what you sign up for. So they weren't good on offense tonight, and Mayfield had an interception. He got hit when he was throwing it. I actually thought he made some good throws and some smart decisions at times, but I was really disappointed. And again, it's cold out, but I was disappointed in the deep ball he threw to Tutu Atwell, who was 4 yards behind the corner, or I think it was Adrian Amos, which is the safety. And he did not put that ball anywhere near where Tutu Atwell could catch it and run for the touchdown. And so that showcased a bit of a lack of arm strength, which that's never been a thing that I've ever associated with Baker Mayfield. But again, it was cold. I cut him some slack, but I'm just looking for certain things that make me feel good. If my team is to be potentially interested in a guy like this in the offseason, I'm looking for reasons to feel good about the potential move. If that were to occur, that wasn't one of them. Anyway, I digress. I don't have anything else really to add. I think this is going to be a quick stream. I honestly feel like it will be. So I'll get to the comment section. And if we don't have any comments, really, we're going to get the hell out of here. Again, this is one of those games where I'm just like, hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined, right? I'm just here because I'm obligated to be here, says I. So if you're out there, you want to have your comment read, super chats are the way to go about that. Also, use the hashtag LouieTLive. We'll get to your comments if we have time permitting, which, again, shouldn't be a problem tonight. Not a lot to really talk about with this particular game, with two really disappointing teams from this season. We start out with the Niners fan who writes, I can't understand Niners fans who are laughing at the Rams this year, acting like they didn't just beat us in our most important meeting these past years and win a chip. I mean, that's just typical, fandom. Division hate spurs this type of emotion. You love to see teams in the division, especially ones that you really hate, like they do the Rams. You want to see them struggle. And although you've had tons of success against them, you own them, as you mentioned, in the one game that you met in the playoffs, the one that mattered the most, they found a way to win and then went on to win the Super Bowl. So in your mind, you're thinking, if we would have beaten them, why couldn't we have won the Super Bowl? Well, you'll never know that. And so if you're a Rams fan, that's what you take solace in. Hey, we beat y'all when it mattered most, but they're struggling, man. It's easy to make fun of them. It's easy to make light of a situation like the Rams are going through right now. And let's be honest, no one saw this coming, and McVay has been so good. He's human as a head coach, and now you get to poke fun. So that's what fans do. You're level-headed, you're rational, and so you're looking at it like, bro, what are you laughing at them for? They beat us in the NFC Championship game last year. They went on to win the Super Bowl after they beat us in the championship game. We're still trying to get to a Super Bowl and win it. I don't know what all the laughing and giggling is about, but it's not how fans see it. They just see it as, oh, the Rams suck. Oh, the Rams are trash. And so it is what it is. Got a super chat here from Red Wings 01. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, it hurts not seeing Adams on this squad. Watson right now is wide receiver 2 playing 1. Cobb and Dobbs are 3s playing 2, and Lazard would be a 4 on most teams. I don't know if Lazard would be a 4 on most teams. Maybe he is. Just depends on what team you're trying to, plant him onto. I always felt like he was a 3 in Green Bay. When Adams was there, he was the clear number 1. And shit, at times Lazard was 2. Really, Lazard was 2. But I always felt like Valdez-Scantling was like more of the number 2, and Lazard was an afterthought. He was number 3, but those two were kind of interchangeable. But to lose Valdez-Scantling and Adams, that was the thing. If they still had Valdez-Scantling and Rodgers had that viable deep threat that he could rely on, they may have been able to survive this year. The amount of drops and, the lack of deep balls and the explosive plays that we are used to seeing the Packers have was alarming. But I've gotten over, Adams not being there. He made his decision, and he's having a great season. It's not like statistically he's not eating well this year. It's just I'm pretty sure he went to Vegas thinking, hey, they went to the playoffs last year. So if I go there, I add to the mix, we should be a playoff team again. And not exactly. That's not quite how it works. But have fun. You're with your best friend. Have fun. So I do agree. If Adams were there, Watson would make a mean number 2. And, Dobbs would probably be who you would be grooming to be that number 3 guy option. But Lazard would be better because Lazard really got thrusted into the number 1 role, if we're being honest. Once all of those guys left, he was the only veteran really there. Randall Cobb hurt like always. Samuel Watkins hurt like always. It really was on the shoulders of Alan Lazard to step up and really be that guy. And he did not handle it well early in the season. There were a lot of drops, and he seemed like he was new just like the rest of these guys for whatever reason. He didn't really step up, and I say for whatever reason, but I know why. I mean, he's seeing better corners. It was just a little bit divine. It's amazing what a true number 1 does, which is why I always say the importance of having one can't be undersold, because that guy's used to getting, coverage rolled to his side, bracket coverage, the number 1 corner on the other team. He's used to eating that and still finding ways to make plays. But what that does is it takes pressure off of other guys. When you don't have that guy, and now a guy that was used to seeing 2s and 3s and, all kinds of one-on-one looks, all of a sudden now he's getting the attention. Doesn't really go all that well now, does it? So I think that's kind of what happened to Alan Lazard this year. But even him and Rodgers don't look right. There was a play tonight. Rodgers throws it to him. He's throttling down because he sees the safety. Rodgers just airmails it thinking he's going to continue up the field, and it's a miscommunication, and it's a pick. And I'm like, bro, say that for the youngins, man. You're too old for that shit. That's not what you and Rodgers are supposed to be doing. You're the veteran. Y'all are supposed to be on the same page. But that's how it's been with him and Alan Lazard, and frankly, all those receivers for that matter this year. So it's been a struggle, but Rodgers knew what was coming. He kind of foreshadowed it. We talked about it on the podcast. He kind of foreshadowed what this season was going to be with these young fellas. But seems like they're getting over some of the growing pains, and they may have something. We'll see. Not ready to crown them yet, but we will see. Anyway, Niners fan writes, also, Lou, I was never advocating for firing Kyle last year. All I said was things had to change after we got embarrassed by Colt McCoy at home. I think if I had the challenge flag, I'd throw it, because you may not have come out and actually said that you wanted to fire Kyle, but I think you insinuated that change needed to be made, and I think you were angling towards Kyle Shanahan. I think it was something to the effect of, maybe Kyle's time is up in San Francisco, or maybe Kyle's run out. His time might have run out. Or maybe it's time. It was something to that effect. So I remember the conversation very vividly. I don't remember exactly what was said, but I remember you insinuating that maybe this is the beginning of the end of Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. Again, if I had the challenge flag, I'd throw it, because you insinuated at a bare minimum. I don't know if you actually came out and said it verbatim, word for word, we should fire Kyle Shanahan. I don't think you ever said that, but I think you insinuated that changes needed to be made. And what changes were you going to make? There aren't many guys on the staff that you can just point to. Kyle calls the offensive plays. What are you going to fire a ghost offensive coordinator? Kyle was calling the offensive plays. Were you going to fire your defensive coordinator? You loved him. You always have loved DeMeco Ryans. So you weren't talking about firing him. What are you talking about? Firing John Lynch? No, it was Kyle. So that's how I remember it. HTTR Carson writes, ready to see the damn Indianapolis Colts again next week. I know, man, on Monday Night Football. LOL, I knew you were, Lou. You just love watching the Colts, don't you? Laughing my ass off. there were a couple of teams that the NFL does this every year, and you can't fault them for this. But they fell into the trap of thinking that Indianapolis was going to be good. And a lot of people fell into that trap, hook, line, and sinker. And I tried to explain to everybody, I said, Tennessee's not going to be good this year, and they're fledgling right now. I said, Indianapolis isn't going to be good this year. And we saw what kind of a train wreck of a season they're having. And they thought Indy was going to be good. They thought Denver was good. And we all did it. We all fell into the Denver trap. I'm not going to sit here and have revisionist history. I thought the Broncos were going to win the Super Bowl this year. I said, they're the team that, the trend in the league was go get you a veteran on a ready-made team, insert said veteran quarterback, and voila, you've got a Super Bowl contending team. We saw it with the Bucks. They won 2 years ago with Brady being inserted. We saw the Rams last year win the Super Bowl with Stafford being inserted. And I thought it was the Denver Broncos' turn. Boy, was I wrong, and so was the league. They put Denver on. Remember, we went through that whole first 6 weeks of the season where the Broncos were on 4 times and we couldn't get away from these bastards no matter how hard we tried. Now it feels like Indianapolis is torturing us. We had them on a Monday night against the Steelers. We had them on a Sunday night against the Cowboys, and now we have them on a Monday night. And we had them on a Saturday, which actually turned out to be an epic contest. But still, who was looking forward to watching Vikings and Colts? There are a million things that I could have thought about doing that were much better and more fruitful than watching Vikings and Colts. Luckily, this is what I do for a living. And so I was forced to watch it, and actually turned out to be a good watch. And now we got to watch them on Monday Night Football. Honestly, I don't even want to watch the Chargers. They're not a fun team right now either. I mean, you should have watched that game against the Titans. It was bad. It was really bad football. So I'm not sure I even want to watch the Chargers at this point. That's not going to be fun next week. Boy, Monday Night Football always gets the short end of the stick. It used to be Thursday night because every team has to play on Thursday Night Football. So you're like, golly, we're going to get Jags and Titans or something like that on a Thursday. And boy, is it going to be bad. But now we don't mind watching the Jaguars, You're going to have to deal with the Texans. That's always going to be a bad game. And that's why they put them against the Eagles, because at least it's a team you want to see. But I wasn't clamoring for Eagles, Texans on a Thursday night. But boy, does Monday night get some bad games, man. Jesus. They just get the short end of the stick. And some of it is unintentional. I mean, Bucks and Saints, that's going to be a dandy. Nope. That game was ass-tastic. Had a great finish, but it was a garbage game. What was last week's Monday night game? Patriots and Cardinals. Oh, my God. That was horrible. We had that's another team the NFL thought was going to be good coming off of their first playoff berth last season was the Cardinals. Boy, were they wrong about them too. And we've eaten at least 4 Cardinals primetime games this year. One over in Mexico City, one against the Saints. We got them on Christmas Day. Oh my God, that's going to be grotesque. And now, and then we saw them last week against the Patriots. So, I mean, we've had the Cardinals at least 4 times on primetime. So it's been the league has been wrong about some teams. Indianapolis was one of them. And yep, we're going to have to do them one more time. One last time, we're going to have to do these stinking ass Colts. Let's see. I don't deserve this. Right. So I'm still disgusted by what I saw last night. You and me both. I mean, disgusted by what we saw from our team, disgusted by what we saw from the officials. It's a confluence of all of that. But most importantly, what we saw from our team. Because again, I'm not looking to blame the officials. They weren't good enough, but nobody was good enough. The offense wasn't good enough. The defense wasn't good enough. The coaching wasn't good enough. The referees weren't good enough. What are you going to say? Play better. That's my message is be better. Be more prepared. Come with the mindset of we're out to win this game and not to, play to not lose, to be passive. Don't come out being conservative. Come out with the mindset, set the tone to your players that we're coming out to win this game. None of that was achieved. And we looked tight. We looked like a team that was scared, So E writes, even more upset today over the loss. Why, Louis? Why? Yeah. I wasn't more upset, but I thought I'd be better today. I wasn't. I was just as, and every time they showed the playoff scenario in the playoff picture tonight, it pissed me off even more. Because I looked at the 7-6-1 and I'm like, that was supposed to be the Giants, not us. So, and then you see the 7-7 teams and you realize how close they are. They're literally banging on the door like, hey, let us in, Washington. And now we got to find a way to keep them on the outside and not let them in. And you're asking us to go on the road to San Francisco to make that happen. I don't like the spot for us. I don't like the challenge that's going to be presented in front of us. But what can you do? You know, you put yourself in this position by not beating the Giants, not once, but twice. So now you have to deal with it. I don't deserve this, right? Jahan Dotson is starting to emerge as a very good receiver, Lou. That's the only positive from last night. And don't forget about Brian Robinson. I mean, Brian Robinson was outstanding last night. Don't forget about Terry McLaurin. He eclipsed 1,000 yards last night for the third consecutive season in 4 years. And he's the first receiver since, I think we established this last night, since Henry Ellard back in like 94 through 96 to eclipse 1,000 yards 3 years in a row for the Washington organization. So there were some bright spots last night, you know, but they were few and far between, unfortunately. We knew Jahan was good. That wasn't a news flash. we knew when we drafted the kid how good he was going to be. For some of us did. Some of you were, you know, incredulous about the pick. But I thought he put to bed any skeptics out there in the first, 2-3 weeks of the season with his play. You know, man got hurt for a 5-6 week stretch, didn't play, and still leads the team in touchdown receptions. So still led the team rather in touchdown receptions and came back and got one again last night. So Jahan Dotson is a stud. You know, there were people out there that after watching Chris Olave, oh man, see, we could have had like, be quiet. Okay, just put a sock in it. That's kind of how I felt about that. Be quiet, please. Rich, not gonna lie. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Or thank you for the comment, rather. This is the most genuinely I've been upset by a loss I can think ever for me. I don't like this feeling, man. That game and those moments been on my mind all day. I know you're a younger fan, so this one is definitely one that sticks out. There was an 18-year-old that said this one really hurt for him too, one of the most hurtful losses for him. That sucks that a week 14 or 15 game, rather, is the most hurtful for some of you, but you haven't had a lot of winners, man. That's a tough, bitter pill to swallow. But with that being said, yeah, that last night stings. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't had many lately because I don't allow myself to really be drawn in by the organization anymore. I don't really allow myself to be that emotionally invested to where it affects me to the point where my mood is affected or I don't have an appetite. That used to be a thing for me with this team. Like that was a legit thing where my whole day would be wrecked if we lost. Wasn't in a good mood, didn't want to talk to anybody, didn't really have an appetite, all of that good stuff. Like it really mattered. It doesn't matter to me as much now because I've grown, and trust me, when you've been beaten up as badly as this organization has done, you start to realize, what am I doing here? Like, do you want to be walking around mad for 3 months straight every year? Because we suck every year. Why would you do this to yourself? You need to get a grip on reality. Your team sucks. Stop being so emotionally invested. So I learned very quickly that that's not how you want to conduct business. But I allowed myself for a little while there, allowed myself to get sucked in. And it happens from time to time. I don't think I'm going to allow that to happen again until we get a quarterback. Because the reality of the situation is you're only going to go as far as the quarterback position is going to take you. And the offensive line isn't great in this, that, and the third. But even with the offensive line not being great, there were enough opportunities where there was good protection last night where plays could have been made and they weren't. So at the end of the day, we're still a quarterback away. And there's some other things we have to clean up. We're not just a quarterback away. I mean, we need more depth at corner. We definitely need at least 3 or 4 more linebackers. Offensive line needs some reshuffling and retooling. I mean, that's the bare minimum. You know, tight end could use a jolt. I don't know if they're actually going to spend any resources there. They just may continue to develop some of the young guys, and I don't have a problem with that. If they said, hey, we've drafted a tight end each of the last 2 years, and we got Aaron Rodgers, we're not spending any more resources on tight end. Okay, cool. I got no problems with that. Develop Cole Turner, make him into something. Take Aaron Rodgers, who this is his first year playing tight end, continue to develop him. I got no issues with that. So we'll see what happens. But that one stings. I'm not gonna lie. I allowed myself, you know, and that's when I find myself getting into trouble, when I allow myself to think, have we turned the corner? I remember that feeling of the Vikings game, thinking, oh my God, we're going to win 4 straight and be going into this Eagles game with all this momentum. And I allowed myself to think that when we went up 17-7 and then we blew it. So, yeah. Red Wing 01. Right. I have little doubt Watson will develop into a wide receiver 1, and he's been playing amazing of late, but the flaws are still there. Facts. Big facts. Spanking Giant Cheeks. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, I broke YouTube trolling you. Can't change my name. That's good. I don't believe you, but if that were the case, that would be awesome. Then it would be one less opportunity for you to try and get me. But I don't believe you. Again, you're fattening up snakes for frogs for snakes. You try to tell me, oh, I'm done trying to get you, Louie. I'm over that. And I'm like, bro, no, you're not. You're good. I don't believe you. You need more people. But anyway, I digress. Justo 428. Right? I feel like we have a chance against the Niners like we did against the Eagles, and I know the players are frustrated. I do as well. I'm not telling you this isn't a kamikaze mission. Like we're not going over to, Santa Clara to be sacrificed. We'll have a shot. I just don't think we're going to win. But we match up well with them. And again, what have I always said? King of the North said it eloquently. Our style of play is made. It's tailor-made for games like this, opponents like this, teams that are better than we are. To grind them, to win time of possession, slow down the pace of the game, or rather speed it up, however you want to look at it. But take the air out of the football, bring the score of the game down to our level because we can't win a shootout, and give yourself a fighting chance. That's what we do. We muck up the game. We want to take a team that's used to scoring 27 and hold them to 17 or 20. What do we do to the Eagles? Eagles have been scoring 30-some odd points, it seems like, on just about everybody of late. We held them to 21 points. We want to muck up the game. So we're going to have a shot against San Francisco. Again, I just don't like the odds of us going there and winning. But, yeah, team's pissed off. Know they let an opportunity slip through their fingers. Know what's at stake now. Know what they have to do. But that knowing what you have to do and going out and doing what needs to be done are two different things. So, Rich writes, oh, yeah, by the way, I love Chase Young. He's pissing me off now. Just had to get that off my chest. We all love Chase. Well, most of us do. I shouldn't say, I can't speak for everyone. Most of us love Chase. I'm not even upset anymore. At this point, I'm just like, it is what it is. If he doesn't play the remainder of the season, you can't miss what you never had. You know, we missed it early in the season. We thought it was coming back. But now that he may not be back, okay, we've played without him all season. I'm not even tripping anymore. Okay, fine. I'll see you next year, bro. It's not a big deal. I'm not tripping about it anymore. He can't come back unless he is ready in his mind. If he's not, then he's of no use to us. He's of no use to us. He's no good if he's not confident in what he can do on the football field. So we need a confident Chase Young. We don't need a guy second guessing himself, scared that he's going to get hit and get hurt again. We need a guy out there that's ready to cut loose. So until he's that guy mentally, don't play. Red Wings 0 Run writes, Matt Ryan and epic choke jobs. Name a more iconic duo. Shame that he is. We already had that comment before. I think I got another super. I do. Mike Stevenson II. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Thank you for being a member of the MOBB, who writes, Lou, same exact week as Wentz in 2017. Shaking my damn head. Oh, you're talking about Jalen Hurts getting hurt. But his isn't as significant, though. Like, I remember watching the game yesterday and thinking, he's really hurt. Like, first, it took him a long time to get up. And every snap after that play, he was grimacing, right? He was wincing. And the Eagles changed the way that they were calling plays for a while there. They were just handing it off. There was even a 3rd and like 5 that they just handed off and they punted because I don't think they wanted him throwing the ball quite yet. But you could tell he did some damage, you know, and this is the problem when you got a mobile quarterback and he's always running. And, you know, and he's done a pretty good job of protecting himself, sliding and things of that nature. But you're going to take some shots. And this is the fear. This is the danger. This is why I said if the Eagles ever dared run read option against me, look, you might pop it for 35 yards, but guess what? Jalen Hurts is getting plastered every time he does it. You're going to pay for this. I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he's going to play against the Cowboys, which sucks. But that matchup lost a ton of luster once the Cowboys lost to Jacksonville. But it still doesn't preclude the importance of the game because you still need to stave off Minnesota. I get it. The Vikings are still 2 back with 3 to go, but you just want to put them away. You just want to go ahead and lock it up if you can. We'll see what happens. I don't think it's serious, and I don't think he'll miss a bunch of time. I think he'll just miss a game. That's it. But we'll see. Spanking Giant Cheeks. Double up. Thank you for doubling up. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Ron was throwing shots at BSJ and Chase coming back in today's interview. He said we need all hands on deck. This is the end of the road for us. I don't think he was throwing shots at Benjamin St. Juice. Again, you want guys that are healthy. I didn't think – I watched Juice practice, you know, a little clip or snippet from him practicing earlier. I didn't think he looked where he needed to be yet. So one more, and I said this, and I had already told you guys, if there was any stretch of the season where we could afford to not have him out there, it was the stretch that he missed. The Falcons game and the 2 Giants games. The Giants threw for 100 and some odd yards last night, just like they did in the first meeting. Like their pass offense scares no one. It's more of the slot. He didn't play the slot. He plays out wide. It was more of the slot that was a problem last night than anything else. So, Juice, I told you I would much rather him sit last night and play the rest of the season than play last night and not be guaranteed that he can play the rest of the season. So, I think he'll be good now. I think the ankle will be right where we need it to be, and he'll be able to help us down the stretch run. We definitely need him this week against San Francisco. I think he was more so talking about Chase Young when he made the comment about all hands on deck. Spanking Giant Cheeks. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes? Exact same scoring problem as last year. Heineke is not the answer. Go ahead and put Carson in and watch us drop 30 points. Some sickle noodle arm. If it were that simple, if they thought that the fix was just removing Heineke from the lineup, they would have done it eons ago. That's not the sole reason this team doesn't score points. There are a lot of factors that go into why we struggle. And it's not just the quarterback. It's a confluence of things. It's the play calling. It's the offensive line. It's the quarterback. It's the conservative nature in which we decided we're going to play moving forward. There's a lot of things that prohibit this team from being what we think they have the capability of being. Until those things are addressed, we're going to be stuck in this cycle of 17, 20. If we get lucky, if we're on our best behavior, 23 points, 12, 17, 17, 20. Oh, we hit 20 this week. Yeah, baby. That's who we are. Don't think Carson is going to change that, but I can tell you this much. I told you the one thing Ron made abundantly clear is, hey, we'll stick with Taylor as long as we winning. We start losing games and they're going to get the itch to go back to Carson. So to me, even if we lose this game against San Francisco, it doesn't necessarily mean the end of Heineke. If he plays well and we lost this game because the defense wasn't good enough. Like if Heineke goes out and goes 24 of 35 for 312 and 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, but we still lose the game, 29 to 24 because the defense couldn't get stops. He'll still be starting the following week. But if we lose the game 26 to 13, Heineke is 19 of 35 for 187 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, or 1 touchdown, no interceptions, but, failed to score points, failed to be the effective offense that we need. Yeah, they're going to go back to Carson for the final 2 games of the season in a desperate attempt to give this offense a spark and a shot in the arm. By then, it may be too little, too late. But the worst thing you could do is if you were trying to give Carson confidence, the worst thing you could do is send him to San Francisco on the offensive line and going up against that ferocious defense. That'd be the worst thing you could do. So we'll see what happens. Red Wings 0-1. Right. LOL. I didn't know you read my Matt Ryan comment before until I went back and watched it. I'm about to say, bro, we already had that comment. We already discussed that. He says, you know what really annoyed me? Scott's insisting on continuously running Curtis into a brick wall. I felt he pressed, with the Curtis carries. I said this yesterday. Up until yesterday, he had done a terrific job of weaving Curtis's touches on the ground into the rhythm of the offense, into the framework of what we were doing. It never felt pressed. It never felt forced. It just felt organic. We're in a rhythm, we're moving the ball, and boom, here comes a Curtis carry. And usually Curtis carries weren't in the scripted first 15. Like we weren't going out of our way to make sure we got Curtis a touch on the ground. We were just going to do it in the scheme and the rhythm and flow of the game. Curtis had 2 carries in the first 9 plays of the game, and neither one of them were successful. So that tells me that was scripted in the first 15, and they really wanted to get Curtis involved early because of, a couple of the runs the last time we played the Giants. I just thought it was forced. That was the first time I felt that way about Curtis's touches on the ground this season. They were forced. And it didn't need to be. It didn't need to be. The worst decision to give it to Curtis in the game was when we got into the red zone. Brian Robinson has the big run. It's 1st and 10 from the 11, and we give it to Curtis, and I don't even know if he gained a yard on that play. And I'm just like, run to the short side of the field. It's an ugly, mucked up run, and I'm just like, what is this garbage? I get it. Brian Robinson's tired on the sideline. You still got Antonio Gibson. You still have other ways that you can run the football. Why do you have to give it to Curtis in that situation? And if you're going to give it to Curtis, get him some space, man. You can run to the short side of the field for what? There's no space over there. That bothers me that teams, we have the numbers on it. That's numbers or space. Which one matters the most? Because it doesn't matter if you don't have if you have the numbers, if you don't have any space to utilize it. I mean, that's the stupidest thing ever. Anyway, yeah, I wasn't in love with the way that they were using Curtis, but it happens. That was the first time I thought he pressed using Curtis this season, so I wasn't tripping. Let's see. DCJ writes, can't wait until you see the film. So many deep, wide open routes, especially in the slot on Sunday Night Football. Not saying bench Taylor, but clear, poor decision-making, in my opinion. I can't wait to watch the film either, because these are the types of games where I usually come back and tell you Taylor was horrible and we should have scored 30. And I'm sick of having those conversations. If they truly felt that way, though, and this is why I don't think I'm going to see something that's going to make me feel even worse, is because, first of all, the offensive line wasn't good enough. This wasn't a game where he was protected and he just missed, which we've had games like that this season, like Atlanta and the first Giants game, where he was protected and he just missed some things. He was under siege in this game. That said, if they truly felt like this was on Taylor and we could have won this game with better quarterbacking, then they would have moved on to Carson immediately. But that's not what they're doing. So I think they were able to reconcile in their brain that, hey, up front we weren't really good, and we're going to keep rolling with Taylor. But the leash has gotten a lot shorter. That's for sure. That is for sure. Red Wings 01 writes, well, look at that. A short QB struggling to see and throw down the middle of the field. What are the odds? Hey. Yep. And you see it with Baker as well. It's tough for them smaller dudes, man. Kyler Murray, too. A lot of these smaller quarterbacks struggle, and a lot of their mistakes happen when they're trying to throw it over the middle of the field. Rich says, Broncos versus Rams for Christmas. You ready, Lou? Merry Christmas. I got a million other things I'm going to be doing on Christmas, and I don't know if one of them will be watching Broncos Rams. If that is a game, if that's a real thing, I'll probably pass on that. My Grizzlies play on Christmas Day, so I'll be watching Grizzlies Warriors at that moment probably. So I'll be able to, and I'm not doing any videos. It'll be Christmas, so I don't have to watch those games, and I probably won't. That's as bad as it gets this time of the year. You know, 4-10 teams. I will pass on that. If that's a real thing. DCJ writes, Robinson must have at least 25 carries. Saturday, no excuses, but I saw breakdowns in spreading 49ers in Seahawks game. Major factor, obviously blocking. I like the matchup in the challenge. We'll see. Again, the 49ers are good. They're not invincible. You know, they're a beatable team, but we can't do the things that we've done and expect to beat a team like the San Francisco 49ers. You can't turn it over twice, not get pressure on the quarterback, give up runs at untimely downs and situations, Can't allow third down conversions. We didn't really. I think the Giants were 2 of 10. We were 1 of 10. So we weren't really giving up third down conversions to them, but did give up a 4th and 9. Can't give up 18-play, 97-yard drives. Can't be 1 of 3 in the red zone. Can't have the penalties that, derail drives and put us behind the sticks. So there's a lot to clean up if you're planning on beating a team like San Francisco. Red Wings 0-1. Right. Honestly, we were all saying for weeks that scoring 17 points a game wasn't going to cut it. And tonight it came to fruition. Ish needs to change. That's been my thing for a very long time. Like, you're not like Ron. Remember Ron's thing last year coming into this year was he kept referencing the 4-game win streak. And I'm like, Ron, I hope you don't think that that's sustainable. You're not winning games 17-15 on a consistent basis. That's not how this league is set up nor works. You'll beat bad teams and you'll beat teams that are struggling just like you are to score by the score of 17-15, or in the case of Indianapolis this year, 17-16, or the Bears game 12-7. Yeah, you'll win some games like that against struggling teams. But when you start playing better teams like Tennessee, you can't just score 17 and expect that to be enough. You play a team like Minnesota, you can't score 17 and expect that to be enough. And we lost both of those games with 17 points. And, the Giants game, we scored 12. 12 points. So we beaten with 12 points. Like, come on, give me a break. We got to be better. Mike Stevenson II writes, if we win, his MVP shot is all but gone, LOL. Yeah, honestly, the worst thing that could happen to the Eagles from a Jalen Hurts standpoint is Gardner Minshew comes in and strokes it. You go out and you score 34 points and you beat Dallas. Because if that happens, what did Micah Parsons say last week that got a lot of headlines? I think the quote was something to the effect of, is it Jalen or is it the system and the scheme? And, he came back a little bit later on and said it's both. But he was basically saying, look, this is a really good team and they do a lot of good things on offense. But Jalen Hurts is a byproduct of the system that they're running and the talent that they have around him. He's not a difference maker at the quarterback. That's what he was insinuating, or at least that's how people took it. Gardner Minshew goes in. If you just insert Gardner Minshew and you keep the party going, that's going to be an indictment on Jalen Hurts. So as crazy as this may seem, if you want Hurts to win the MVP, if you want people to recognize that this isn't just the system, that Hurts is really the reason that this offense is as dynamic as it is, you actually need to struggle with Gardner Minshew at quarterback if he plays against Dallas. As crazy as that sounds. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody's trying to lose to a team that you desperately want to beat just for bragging right purposes, because you pretty much got the division locked up after Dallas lost to Jacksonville. But that's a real thing. You're not wrong, Mike. Like, literally, if Gardner Minshew comes in and plays well, that's a knock on Jalen Hurts, because now we can really say, and we've got proof now, it's just the system, man. It's not Jalen Hurts. It's the system. All right, let's go back to where I was. Let's see where I was at. I think we was up here somewhere. Right here. Red Wings 0-1. Right. I will say, for as much as flack as I give Taylor's arm, that bomb to Jahan was a thing of beauty. Great catch, too. the overthrow to Diami, I was shocked. He launched that bitch, and that had to be. I can't wait to watch that one on the all 22s. That had to be every bit of 55 yards in the air, and he overthrew him. I was shocked. That was a flea flicker. So Taylor showed off a little something there. You know, I still like him to be accurate there, but let's see. I don't deserve this, right? Best case scenario, our playoff chances come down to week 18 against Dallas. Because we lost to the Giants, I don't think we have a choice now. It's going to come down to week 18. We're going to have to win that game. I can't see a scenario in which we won't need that game after losing to the Giants. The only way, if we would have beaten the Giants and then beat San Francisco and the Giants lost to the Vikings, we would have pretty much clinched a playoff berth at that point. Being 9-5 with 2 to go, there would have been no way that Detroit nor Seattle would have been able to catch us, despite whatever they had done. They wouldn't have been able to catch us. But now sitting there, literally a half game on top of those teams. Detroit has a soft schedule. We've already seen it. We're gonna go over it tomorrow on the show, but I've done this already. Seattle's got a tough schedule. They're gonna lose. Seattle's done. It's more about Detroit and the Giants now are the two teams that are gonna be the ones that we have to box out somehow. And the Giants, we'll see what happens with them. They could lose or they could beat Minnesota, right? They're going to beat Indy the following week. And then they got the Eagles again. And the Eagles won't need that week 18 game. They won't. So I just don't see the Giants not making the playoffs now. So we're going to need week 18 regardless. DCJ says, something tells me either Chase is having major knee issues besides the ACL, or he's uncomfortable with that brace. Something's not right. It's very clear this isn't mental. Hold back. I think it is mental. He got checked out again by Dr. Andrews. Everything looked good. Structurally, his knee is intact. He's fine. He can roll. The brace may not be comfortable, but bro, what are you going to do? Like, I think it's all mental. All mental. He wants to be able to get back, because I think this is my theory, and I could be way off base here. I can't confirm or deny any of the shit that I'm about to say, but I honestly think that last year's poor play is in his head, and he doesn't want to put a poor product out there. And he's very cognizant of the fact that he's coming off of an injury. He hasn't had, a lot of football activities, which is why he keeps talking about conditioning. That's the thing that we keep hearing, is he doesn't feel like he's got the proper conditioning. Bro, we're not asking you to play, 45 snaps in the game, but he's already said once he comes back, he might be waving dudes off like, nah, I'm good, leave me in the game. So this whole pitch count thing, that may be the idea, but he may get in the game and they may blow that pitch count up to smithereens. But, we keep hearing that he doesn't have the football legs. He doesn't have, the kind of endurance that he would like to build up, because he hasn't done anything from a football standpoint in a full calendar year. That said, I think that a pitch count eliminates you needing to be in tip-top football shape. Okay? If you're on a 12 to 15 snap pitch count, you don't need to be in the best of football shape for that. I just think he's more concerned with, am I going to be able to go out and play my brand of football because of how poor I played last season before the injury? If I come out and try to gut it out for my team and get out there and I'm a non-factor, now I'm really going to start hearing the B word thrown around. And, he can minimize all he wants, the outside noise. Oh, I don't listen to that. I got good people around me. And you need that, but he's human. He's young. He's always on social media. He hears the noise. Impossible not to. You can insulate yourself all you want. The fact of the matter is, the society that we live in, if you're on social media, it's impossible not to hear the chatter, the rumblings, the grumblings. He's heard it. And I think he's looking to avoid coming back and being ineffective and having that further tarnish the legacy that he's trying to create here in Washington. So that's my thought process. Again, I could be way off base there, and it could have nothing to do with any of that. It literally could just be him feeling like he's not at a level from a conditioning standpoint that puts him in a position to be able to do the things that he wants to do. But that's just my personal opinion. Let's see. NY for life. Right. Thoughts on Carson Wentz and is he the Commander's future? I mean, I've said this already. You got 3 weeks left of the season. They're going to tell the story. Whether this team plays bonus football or not, it's going to tell the story as to what the quarterback position is going to look like. Because if they bench Heineke after this 49ers game, Wentz comes in, wins 2 straight, they make the playoffs, wins a playoff game, well, all of a sudden, the whole narrative and the tenor of what we felt about Carson Wentz changes significantly. If this season ends with a whimper, whether it's with Heineke at quarterback or Wentz at quarterback, he's done. He's not going to be back. So right now, the answer is no. He's not the answer at the quarterback position, but we still got 3 weeks left. We'll see what happens. DCJ, how many wide open deep balls and routes did you see live? Then how many did you see on tape from Sunday Night Football? Not counting the 3 times Taylor did go legit downfield. I saw one. It was one play in particular. Now, the Curtis one down the sideline should have been a touchdown where he had to jump and get his feet down. That's the same ball Carson threw down the sideline against Jacksonville to Terry for the touchdown. And this one was way more open than the one Carson had to put his on a rope to get it there before the safety could come over the top and impact it. This corner turned him loose to nobody down the sideline. Like Curtis literally would have been jogging into the end zone. There was not a soul behind him, and he had to get his feet down because the throw was taking him out of bounds. If that throw takes him up the field, down the sideline, in stride, we're going for 2 to tie the game up with about 140-something left in the game. DCJ writes, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year's to you and your family, all watching this stream. Stay blessed. Likewise. Likewise. Got a super chat. Blackout B, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, Yo, Lou, just saw Heineke was at the Caps game chugging beers. He doesn't seem too concerned with last night's loss. Neither should the mob, I guess. Shaking my head. Hey, live life. I said if you're a player, you got to have the ability to flush a loss like that. You can't dwell on it. Leave that shit for us as fans to do that. Go out, flush that shit, get ready for San Francisco. I've already said these guys aren't robots. I'm not one of those fans that, oh man, why is he at the Caps game? He should be looking at film of San Francisco. This is why we suck. You know, some dummies out there that are going to feel that way. Dum-dums. Like he's a robot and he's supposed to do nothing but football. No, the man, it's a job. Football is no different than any other job. Okay? They literally have to show up at the facility at a specific time. Let's say 8 o'clock in the morning. If you're the quarterback and you want to get there 2 hours early, like Brady and those guys, do 6 o'clock in the morning, you want to be the first one there, knock yourself out. But they got to be there from 6 or 8 o'clock till 6 in the evening, right? Their day is over after that. After all the meetings and stuff, you get to go home. You can do whatever you want with the time after you leave the facility. Now, if you want to watch extra film, that's on you, right? But once you leave the facility, your workday is done. Go enjoy life. I wouldn't dare tell you after you leave your cubicle at work, hey, you got to take work home with you and work even more so you can be the best telemarketer that exists, right? You can be the best. The best around. Nah, whatever you do at work, you're a clerk at Walmart. I'm not telling you, hey, man, you should take one of these guns home and do some labeling while you're at the crib, right? Like, hell no, you're not doing that shit. Once you leave work, you're off the clock. Do whatever you want with your time. If he was at the Caps game, good for him. Good for him. Spanking Giant Cheeks, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, LB can't afford the super, so I'll send it for him. Don't know why y'all referencing LB, man. Leave that man alone. Let me see where I left off at. I think I left off. I think it was a Dallas Cowboy fan trying to talk some shit is where I stopped. I got another super chat. I may. No, I don't. All right. Yeah, I think it was a Dallas Cowboy fan trying to talk some shit. This ain't the week for Dallas Cowboys fans to be talking about anything. Let's see. Yeah, I'm going to skip over his comment. I don't have time for trolls tonight. Jonathan Hankey writes, great, another primetime game with my Colts about to be slaughtered again. LOL. I wish they could flex you guys out of these games, man. Again, they rolled the dice and they thought you guys were going to be good and you weren't. And so sucks, but it is what it is. DCJ writes, my opinion, I agree with your opinion, but clips I see more going through the motions. I don't see the physical aggressiveness he had rookie and prep for second year pre-injury. So, again, I'm just going to tell you what I see. You know, I see a guy that is very hypersensitive about what's being said about him. And, you know, he tried to downplay it last year. You remember after every game when he didn't get another sack or, you know, he struggled against the Falcons game. Remember, he had the penalty against Matt Ryan where he should have had a sack, but he pushed him and they called him for, you know, a blow to the head of the quarterback, and it was just dumb. And you could see he was pressing. He was thinking too much. He wasn't just playing football anymore. And he kept, you know, I can't stand the Jack Del Rio line because, you know, you feed this to your players and they actually start to believe this shit. But, you know, sacks and turnovers come in bunches. Like, that's such a cop-out line when you're not getting them. Oh, we're not worried. They come in bunches. They actually did come in bunches this year, which is, I got frustrated because I'm like, now this validates the bullshit that he's saying, because to me, that's not, you preach turnovers. You preach turnovers, and you continue to work at getting the ball out. You don't just, it's almost like having bills and just hoping that they go away. Like they'll just forget about that I owe them $217. You know, I'll just magically have these bills disappear. No, you got to actually actively go after turnovers. You got to seek them out. You got to go and find a way to back quarterbacks. This ain't Ohio State, and you're not playing against Illinois. You're not playing against Purdue, okay, where you get to bag the quarterback 3 times against an inferior offensive line, and you're destroying your matchup against an inferior offensive lineman. These boys up here get paid, and they are phenomenal athletes. It's the best of the best. You want sacks, you want to be able to have all these accolades, you got to put in the work. And I'm not saying that he wasn't putting in work, but whatever he was doing, it wasn't good enough. So, yeah, I do think there's a mental aspect of it. He doesn't want to look like a fool coming back and not being productive. I do think there's a bit of that. See, DCJ. Right. I'm going to wait till you see the tape. I counted 5 deep plays or deep digs or comebacks that Taylor had time and etc. Again, I'm reacting off the TV film and replays, but I know concept. Yeah, I mean, I'll take a look and we'll have a chance to digest it. And again, I'm gonna assume, and I shouldn't do this, but I'm gonna assume because Ron wasn't overly, concerned about Taylor's play. Had he, because when he's been critical of the quarterback position, is because he had every right to be. And there's been times where I've been hypercritical of the quarterback position and the play we've gotten from it because we left opportunities out on the field. I don't know if they feel that way or not necessarily this game, but I'm going to see, because my thought process is that the offensive line really was a problem in this game. And so there were times, one in particular with Jahan, up the seam, wide open for a touchdown. He didn't have time. Trey Turner gives a half-assed effort, and the shit's not good enough. So we'll see. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing the film. DCJ says at least 3 down the slot in the middle, wide open. Safety was late. Scared money don't make money. I saw Jahan one time and Curtis twice. Yeah, I'll take a look at it. I would definitely take a look at it. DCJ says, I don't know why, but for some odd reason, my super chats won't go through. So I've been ghost for a minute, but I've been wanting to chop it up. I was shocked. I was like, damn. I just thought, because some people, they do that. They get fatigued with the team or whatever the case may be. And then you go away for a while and then you come back. I just thought you were one of those dudes. And I got no problems with that. None at all. Juan Gotti talking sports. Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you, my guy. Juan Gotti talking sports rights. 7-6-1, Lou. Long story short, we have to win out now. You don't have to win out, but at a bare minimum, you got to win 2 out of your final 3. Bare minimum. You can't win any less than 9 games. If you really want to go, 10, because as you see right now, we're in the playoffs. Nobody from behind can catch us if we just win. But again, That would mean you went to San Francisco and won. That would mean you come back home for the final 2 games of the season. And the likelihood is Dallas won't need the week 18 game. They won't need it because they've already clinched a playoff spot. The only question is, can somebody from behind catch? They swept the Giants, so they're not worried about the Giants. Giants can't catch them in the standings. And they can't catch the Eagles, so they won't have anything to play for in week 18. They'll already have the 5 seed pretty much locked up. If they beat Philadelphia or the following week after that, they beat the Titans, they'll have the 5 seed locked up. None of the other teams in the conference can get to 11 wins. So they won't win the division, but they can't get any higher than 5. They'll have nothing to play for in week. We'll go over this tomorrow. I don't need to do it right now. Win out is the easiest scenario, but let's be honest, that's highly unlikely to happen. Soto Rico, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. Who writes, remember you said the Eagles had the 3rd defensive line in the division. I think I said that. Sounds about right. Something sounds along the lines of it sounds like something I would have said. I don't feel any different about the Eagles defensive line. I truly don't. I honestly feel like the Eagles defensive line is a byproduct of a tremendous secondary. That's how I feel. But again, the numbers that they're putting up, I can't dispute them. They're putting up big numbers, but I think a lot of what they're doing is quarterbacks are having to turn shit down in the secondary, and those boys are hitting home. But I can't confirm nor deny that. All I know is they're putting up numbers. So it is what it is. All right. This will be the last comment. We out of here. DCJ, my main issue is the multiple possessions Giants started inside the 5, regardless if it's 4 or 5-man front. Why didn't Jack blitz heavy? I know 26 is getting the ball. So blitzing is easy to scream out. Blitz more, blitz. But in blitzing, you put your defense at a disadvantage if you do not get there. And with a talent like Saquon Barkley, for instance, if you blitz and he hits a seam or crease, or they throw it to him in the flats and he gets a block and he gets to the second level, you blitz, and now there's not enough defenders back there, and now it's a foot race. He's got an angle on somebody and he cooks them, and it's a 79 or it's a 93 or it's an 87-yard touchdown. When the Giants, they struggle just like we do to score. So why would you put yourself in a position to give it up cheap and easy? So I get it. I understand why blitzing isn't something you want to do on a consistent basis. And I wasn't advocating that they do that. I said, I've always been a fan of situationally being aware of what needs to be done. Jack's had a solid handle on that. There have been times where he's blitzed and I was like, that was a good time to bring a pressure. Even in the first game when we played them, we sat Daniel Jones on the 3rd down when he brought Danny Johnson off the corner, and Danny hit home and sacked him and it knocked him out of field goal range, and they had the punt, and that's a possession that saved us. It's a well-timed blitz. Got home. I was looking for more of those, and I didn't think he was in sync with what needed to be done in this game. So anyway, I digress. All right. Packers win the game 24-12. They're 6-8. Playoff hopes are still fledgling, but they're still alive nonetheless. Meanwhile, the Rams continue a nightmarish season. They're now 4-10. And again, one of the worst Super Bowl defending champion seasons I can remember in recent memory. They continue to lose, and I will say they're fighting, but that only goes for so much, right? It only counts for so much. So That's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I appreciate you guys kicking it with the kid after such a lackluster game. But either that's one of two things. You love a ball or you just came to kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Either way, I appreciate you. So that's going to do it for me. You guys know what it is. Get off the bench, get in the game, and kick it with me, your man, Louie T. Until next time, you guys have a good one. God bless and good night.